Hello everybody, this is Cohutta here, and I've got a clip I want to share with you. I first came across this on the internet under a discussion area dedicated to audio recordings. I managed to get a hold of the witness who originally recorded the clip, and through our discussions I learned the following things. The recording itself was captured on a camcorder while the witness was hiking and camping in the Cohutta wilderness of the North Georgia mountains. It was recorded in early September of 2008, and the time of the recording was in full darkness just after sunset. The witness stated that he was unsure of what it was that he heard. He couldn't identify the sound, but he found it unnerving enough at the time that he immediately left the area and ended his camping hiking trip. This recording was first brought to my attention in late summer of 2010 by Bob Densford, associated with Texla Research, Texla Research. And I managed to contact the witness who originally recorded this in August 2010. So that's the time period where I began digging into this recording. It's got some interesting features, but what's very unique about this recording and what makes it actually a very important recording are the unusual and new sounds that were captured by this witness. Those sounds would actually play a very important role over the months and years ahead as I continue to study more audio such as this. So let's dive into the analysis. So let's take it down in here. First, you'll notice there's a fairly strong signal here, another strong signal here, and then there's a little more stuff going on out here that we'll take a listen to. So let's get this rolling. You can hear the background. Obviously this is a night scene. You got crickets going in the distance all around. Again, this is recorded on a camcorder. Let's jump up here. We've got this first apparent vocal. We'll zoom in, take a look at this. Nice long flat howl, it looks like. Okay, let me stop and loop on that. You can hear that's a nice long flat ooh phoneme type howl. So it begins low, rises a little bit, holds a flat pitch, and then right at the very end it ends with a little bit of an upward whoop-like ending, a slight rise in pitch right there. Very beautiful sounding vocal. Okay, so from that ooh vocal, let's move on. Let's see what else we have here. Whoops, did you hear that? Nice woody note right there. Let's loop it. So that's a good woody percussion. We'll call that a wood knock. Okay. There's a percussion here, that could be the recorder's, not really sure. Right after that though, there does sound like another woody percussion. Okay, so there's a little bit of woody percussion there, followed by some noise in the foreground, possibly the recordist himself. Let me see, just after this it looks like another good long howl, this time ascending in pitch a little higher. Okay, let's focus in on this. There's something interesting going on here, and I want to bring it to your attention. So obviously we have this flat to slightly ascending howl. These are harmonics, but what's interesting about them is you notice the bottom one is what we call attenuated. It's faded out. It's weaker than the F1 harmonic that's right above it. Normally it's the opposite. The F0 will be stronger and bolder, and all of the harmonics above it will become increasingly weak as they ascend away from the stronger F0. This weaker harmonic has a name. It's called an attenuated harmonic. And again, Bob Densford first brought this to my attention years ago when he pointed out that the Ohio moan howls had an attenuated fundamental frequency. And because the F0 is attenuated, often the F1 harmonic appears much stronger and louder. So this is actually a feature that I like to look for and find in potential Sasquatch audio. Now, what's really interesting is not the vocal itself, but what is happening just before the vocal. It took me some time to actually recognize that this was even in this clip. It's such a subtle sound that I didn't notice it at first. And I came back over the days and weeks that I studied this recording and finally recognized that this was here. Let me loop through this real quickly. It's hard to discern, but there's a soft sound here and a soft sound here right at the start of the howl. And I'll play a couple of examples later of this same sound much stronger. But to my ear, it's a soft vibrating sound, and it happens twice. Okay, so let's move on from this. Okay, before we move too far, let me point out one more feature here. This howl has what I call a phoneme shift. You can clearly hear an ah sound as the howl proceeds and ascends in pitch. And that ah is what is responsible for the attenuated fundamental. All of the resonance is focused higher in pitch up into the F1 harmonic. But right at the end of the howl, this ah phoneme shifts to an oo phoneme. So we have a phoneme transition from ah to oo. This is not something you normally see in canid vocals. Canids have a very difficult time shifting from an oo phoneme to an ah phoneme, or vice versa, from ah to oo. So this is a second signal or indicator that I look for in potential Sasquatch vocalizations. So listen closely as it goes from ah to oo. And there's even a third little feature in there. Right at the end of the oo vocal, you'll notice how it has an uplilt in pitch. Again, similar to that first howl, it ends with almost like a short whoop right at the end of the vocal itself. Let's loop that. So let's carry on. It gets pretty quiet. Ah, there we go. A good, beautiful standalone whoop. Now, how is that for a response? We've had these good, suspicious vocals at the beginning of the recording, and then right here, you can see this ascending, curving parabolic signal in the spectrogram. It's just a beautiful example of a long, languid, drawn-out whoop. Let's play this a couple of times. I don't know about you, but I think that sounds pretty beautiful. Very languid, well executed, very well controlled. That's another feature I like to see. Potential Sasquatch whoops are a form of glissando, a pitch change that rises smoothly without breaking and with tight control. Very fluid. And you can see that here. You can hear that here. There's no hesitation in the signal, no pause as the signal rises. It's just a very smoothly executed, well-controlled vocal. Another good indicator. So let's move on. All right, that sounds like another woody percussion. All right. So I would call that a whoop followed by a potential wood knock. And there you can hear the witness himself. He's been listening to this the whole time. And even he is impressed. Despite the fact that he wasn't able to recognize what he was listening to, he's impressed by what he hears with that little humph, and then he takes a few steps on down the trail. That sounded like another wood knock. And now we move on to what I find to be the most interesting part of this recording. Okay, so you recall that the two soft vocals that I pointed out before the long howl earlier, the sounds that had the vibrating characteristic in them. Here are four more of what I believe are the same sounds. And you can hear them much more clearly. They're a little louder here, deeper in pitch, but I'll loop this and I believe you'll be able to hear this vibrating noise to them. Okay, so this is the important part of this recording, and over time I came to realize that this set of sounds is actually a vocalization, and over the years since 2010 I've heard this very subtle, almost unidentifiable vocalization in at least a dozen other situations where it is believed that a sasquatch was in proximity of and aware of the presence of a human. Of all of the recordings I've studied over the years, every time I've heard this vocalization type, and I have a nickname for this vocalization type, I call it the zipper vocal because it sounds somewhat like a zipper. Whenever this zipper vocal has been recorded, it's always been in a situation where a Sasquatch was in the position to observe a human nearby, and that human happened to have an audio recorder or a camcorder or something operating at that moment, and they were able to capture this vocalization. At other times, when there have been dead drop recorders left in the woods, recording overnight with no human present, this vocalization has never been captured. So this is a very important feature, these zipper vocals. This is the first time I ever heard them. I discussed them with the witness back in 2010. He said to his ear at the time it sounded very much like somebody banging a large plastic trash can on the ground. A heavy impact. It was a deep bass note to his ear. This zipper vocal is important, and you will see it in future videos that I intend to put out. So remember this vocal, you'll see it and hear it again. As we move deeper into the recording, we see another potential wood knock. And here we have a potential wood knock followed by 3 soft vocalizations. This sounds somewhat like a voice to my ear, making some kind of an utterance. I couldn't tell you what it actually sounds like. It's just too distant. But it's followed by this little signal up here, which might actually be a wood knock. So let's loop this a couple times. Yes, a nice high woody note right after that vocalization right there. So I wanted to make this video for a long while just to bring out this set of sounds right here, the zipper vocal. Again, first time I ever heard it in a recording, first studied it in 2010. I was astounded every time I encountered this type of a zipper vocal in other recordings that I've studied in the years since. In the future, I hope to bring a couple more videos to you that will show where this vocalization ties into other recordings of potential Sasquatch vocalizations, and if we happen to capture a zipper vocal in those recordings, I'll be sure to point it out to you. If you'd like to hear the original, unfiltered, unamplified recording that this analysis was taken from, continue to watch through to the end, and you'll find that audio clip at the end of this video. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this, I hope you'll subscribe, hit the like button, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. Thank you.